A lot can happen in 3 years, like a chatbot may be your new best friend. But what won't change? Needing health insurance. United Healthcare Tri-Term Medical Plans, underwritten by Golden Rule Insurance Company, offer flexible, budget-friendly coverage that lasts nearly 3 years in some states. Learn more at uh1.com.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Hey, it's Paige DeSorbo from Giggly Squad. High quality fashion without the price tag. Say hello to Quince. I'm snagging high-end essentials like cozy cashmere sweaters, sleek leather jackets, fine jewelry, and so much more. With Quince being 50 to 80% less than similar brands. And they partner with factories that prioritize safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing. I love that. Luxury quality within reach. Go to quince.com/style to get free shipping and 365-day returns on your next order. Quince.com/style.
Changing Times, the Allenwood Conversations.
Proudly supported by Kildare County Council. I developed a really unhealthy relationship with alcohol because I needed to numb the sharp edges of the world. So on the 23rd of January this year, I was 10 years sober. Hello and welcome to Changing Times, the Allenwood Conversations here in lovely Allenwood, County Kildare, not too far from the Bog of Allen. Mary Kennedy, how are you today?
I'm very good. I have to say I'm enjoying these conversations, talking to people from different walks of life with different stories to tell. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation today with a young woman who has a fascinating story to tell.
So I'm looking forward to this conversation. Actually, the conversations that we've heard from all our guests so far, you know, they've opened up all sorts of windows, doors, really interesting perspectives. And I just hope that our listeners are enjoying what they're hearing as much as we've been enjoying them, because it's conversations like these, I suppose, that allow people to say, I'm learning so much, you know, this is helping me, or this is helping me get through something. It helps connect us to one another. Yeah,
it's kind of motivational, sometimes inspirational. The diversity of voices and the different experiences that I think it's a privilege, really, it is for us to be able to do that. And we are delighted to welcome Stefanie Preissner. Now, she's not only a celebrated writer and broadcaster, but also an outspoken advocate for autism awareness. And your journey, Stefanie, has been one of huge success, creativity, resilience, and giving really deep and meaningful insights into your experience within your life and career, which, as we've been just saying, has to have an effect on people and hopefully give them comfort and motivation.
So you're very, very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Allenwood. I'm going to kick off because, as you know, the podcast is called Changing Times. So the subject has change at its core, you know, because life is all about all sorts of changes that can hit you, afflict you, or help you or challenge you in all sorts of ways. But I'm pretty sure that you do not like change at all.
Absolutely hate it.
Why so? Tell us more.
Because who likes it? I just don't. I cannot relate to the impulse of people who are like, ooh, new year, wonder what it's going to be in store. Let's go somewhere new on holidays that we've never been and just explore the place. I need to know what I'm in for, really. So in 2017 maybe, I wrote a book called Why Can't Everything Just Stay the Same? And at the time, I didn't know that I was autistic. And, you know, it's quite a common autistic trait or facet that, you know, routine.
That's a feature of autism?
Yeah, like that you know, spontaneity is not something that I'm kind of great with. So like when I was a child, my mum would get like 1 week's holidays, you know, from her job, and we'd go abroad. And we went to the same place, the same apartment, in the same apartment block, in the same part of the same island for years and years in a row, because we had 7 days of holidays. And if we went somewhere new, I was sick for the first number of days just because I couldn't deal with the stress of being somewhere new and not knowing where we were going. And even now, like if my friends invite me for lunch, I'm like Googling the menu of the place and trying to work out like what it's going to look like and what I'm like. I might even, if I'm in the area, go into the restaurant once before I meet my friends there, because it's just a lot for me for kind of an autistic brain to process everything. So if I'm meeting you somewhere new, it's difficult for me to concentrate on like maybe the conversation that we're having because I'm taking in my surroundings, and it's how an autistic brain works, that we just kind of process things differently.
How are you feeling now, say in this room with us? Because you've really just walked in and sat down. How's that working for you?
This is okay because I'm talking about myself. So this isn't like something where I have to remember, and it's not really a two-way conversation. Like I'm not really going to be asking you guys questions and having to listen to the answers and then have a conversation. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes when I have conversations with people, I can struggle to think like, I don't know what I meant to say next, you know? So people who are good storytellers, who tell lots of yarns and kind of keep talking, that's great for me, because I'm like, I'm just going to ask you a question and you just talk about yourself. But when it's a two-way conversation and I'm in a new place and it's new people, I can really struggle.
Well, now you're a storyteller and a writer with huge success. Where did that all begin? Was it kind of trying to deal with situations?
Well, actually, I never really wanted to be a writer, and I was terrible at English. I wasn't terrible at English, but I didn't love Pride and Prejudice, which, makes you be like, I just didn't want to read Emily Bronte or things from the past. So I really wanted to be the first female Garda commissioner. That was my dream. And then Noreen O'Sullivan took that off me. So that was that. But I went...
Were you a guard even?
Well, I went to Templemore for 2 weeks. And then I got an acting job. And I left. And then I... because at the time they weren't recruiting, so you could go on kind of like a work experience thing and come back, but there was like a halt on recruiting guards at the time, which we're now seeing an issue with. But anyway, so I went and I got an acting job, and I said, you know what, I'll go back to the guards when the acting dries up. And it just kind of hasn't. The acting kind of went and then evolved into writing. I trained as an actor. And then I wrote my first play, which was called Our Father, which was a play in rhyme. And it was about a girl who meets her dad for the first time at her mother's funeral. So it was funny, but it's kind of grim, but it got a lot of attention and then a lot of praise. But I learned from that one about the importance of a good title, because everyone thought it was a clerical abuse play, because it was also coming out at the time that like all these reports were coming out, so the audience numbers weren't as big. So then my second play, which was funded by the Arts Council based on the success of the first one, was called Salpadine is My Boyfriend, and that's a great title, and people bought tickets to that like without even reading the blurb based on the title. So and at that point, a TV producer saw that play and asked me if I had any interest in writing television. And I said I did. And that's kind of how the career went. So,
with the writing.
Yeah.
Because I know that you have said, you've said here that you love order and everything has to be organised, and that, the world is chaotic, but that, is this a way then of dealing with it and putting order on the life for you? Yeah,
I think so. It's just a way of processing. I like to read a lot. I don't particularly like watching scripted television. I like current affairs. I watch Oireachtas television all the time. I want to process what's happening in the world. And the way that I do that is, I guess, by putting pen to paper or putting my hands to my computer. And it might be a blank screen that I'm looking at, but by the time I've finished, just the physical act of typing has put some order on the chaos of my brain. And by the end of it, I kind of know how I'm feeling about something. But also I change my mind all the time. I think that's part of the success that I've had, particularly as a broadcaster or as a public commentator, because I think people go on radio or they become, spokespeople, and they're very calcified in their views. Whereas I'm pretty open-minded and open to kind of being convinced by data, by science, by facts.
Tell me a little bit about your background, because the name, Stefanie, beautiful name, Preissner, not what you'd call a conventional normative Irish name. Yes. But you're an Irish girl. So where does the name come from? And tell me, fill in a little bit about the background.
My mum is Irish. She was born and raised in Santry, Castleknock, and she went to college, and in the summer after her first year went to Germany to find her dream. And she met my dad there. And so then she didn't come back and finish her degree. She stayed there and they got married and they had me. And so my dad is German, and that's where my name comes from. He's from Munich, but my parents then got divorced when I was young. So I lived over there for a while. Then we came back here, and I kept the name because it was on all my, because that's who I am, because it was on all my birth certs and passports.
And do you keep that relationship with your dad and with the German language? And
with the German language, yes. I have a more socially distant relationship with my father. Not for want of trying. I've tried to contact him, but he's not. I have a sister, so then he got married again. He had another child, and she and I are in touch. We got close enough during the lockdown. She still lives in Germany, so we, WhatsApp makes everything so much easier to be in touch. So I'm in touch with her a little bit, but not with him.
And what about the relationship with your mum then?
Yeah, my mum is great, and I think our relationship is all the stronger now since I've had kids. She's just so helpful, and she lives in Mallow in Cork, where I grew up. But she comes up to Dublin every week to help me with the kids, and she's great.
Mm-hmm. And as growing up, what kind of relationship did you have with your mum?
We had a good relationship in the sense that it was just the two of us, and it really felt like it was kind of like the two of us against the world. But she was also leaning on her mother a lot, so I had a really close relationship with my grandmother. And I spent a lot of time one-on-one with my grandmother during the summers. I would go to Wexford. They had a mobile home, and my mum wouldn't be there. I'd just be with my grandmother, probably to give my mother a break, but also, so that I could spend time with my grandparents. And then my teenage years, they're tricky, aren't they? Girls are tricky.
I'm just thinking, with your difficulty processing the world as you knew it, how did that kind of impact on your mother? And, how did she help you through it?
Well, it was interesting. She says to me all the time, God, I wish we'd just known. It would have been so much easier.
How old were you when you got a diagnosis of autism?
33.
And what prompted you to go do that, to get the diagnosis?
Well, it was a number of factors, actually. So first of all, my grandmother died in 2019, and she was like my best friend. I took that really badly, and I could see that I was grieving differently to how my family, my cousins and my uncles and aunts were grieving.
What way?
So they were really sad and overtly sad, and I was kind of obsessed with why did she die? Because she had a short illness, and she was in hospital, and then she came out of hospital, and then she went back in and she was dead. And I was like, why did she die, and what happened? And I was kind of just really focused on the data and the facts around it, and how was it going to happen, and what was going to happen to the house now, and these kind of things. Whereas the other people were crying. They were sad. Yeah, they were crying, And I had the same GP as my grandmother, and I went into her saying my thought, I can't sleep at night. These thoughts are just going around my head. And she was kind of like, I wonder, after me going in there a few times, she was saying I wonder, would you, consider being assessed for autism? And I was like, well, I'm terrible at maths and I have no problem making eye contact. So I'm definitely not autistic. Thank you very much. Because I thought autism was Rain Man, and then I got pregnant in 2020, quite unexpectedly. And my husband and I, was he my husband at the time? No, I think we were engaged. I can't remember. But anyway, we were kind of shocked about it, but also, we're like, okay, fine, we're going to do this. This is going to be great. And I was kind of shook about the whole situation because I was like, okay, I didn't plan this, and this is a big change. So I started seeing the mental health team in the National Maternity Hospital. They were really helpful, trying to get me to kind of get my mind into accepting that this was going to happen. And another facet of autism, for me anyway, is I find it really hard to imagine abstract things in the future. So if someone says, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I can't. I'm sorry. I don't. And it's not because I'm not ambitious. It's just because my brain doesn't work like that. So they were helping me to kind of come to terms with the pregnancy. And then at around 11 weeks, we realised there was something wrong with baby. There was a lot of fluid around them and there was an issue with the heart, and we were doing more tests and stuff. And it was lockdown. It was just a really stressful time. And then at 16 weeks, I was in RTE and I was recording a show that I used to do, the book show with Ricochet. And I got this awful pain and I was like, oh my God, I need to leave. But I didn't want to tell anyone or make a fuss, you know. And producers were like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I just need to leave. And they were like, okay, you look really unwell. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go outside. Someone's going to pick me up. But I drove myself to the hospital and I was having miscarriage.
Oh, no. At 16 weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Oh, boy. So I continued to see the mental health team, and how I processed that, again, didn't look like how I guess people expect someone to deal with the miscarriage. I, again, was really obsessed with what had happened, what was wrong, how can I prevent it, how can I get pregnant again. To me, the grief I didn't feel like crying. I didn't imagine that it was a baby that I had lost, because I couldn't imagine it being a baby at that time. And again, it was suggested to me, would you consider being assessed for autism? And I was like, again, still terrible at maths, still can have eye contact. And then it was suggested to me another time. And, you know, when 3 people suggest it, it's like, okay, fine, maybe you're right. And so I went for the assessment.
And Stefanie, when you got the diagnosis, which was, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, just over.
How did that sit with you? Was it a relief, like to know that how do you say it? Do you say I have autism or I'm autistic?
That's actually a really interesting point, I think, because it's like a flashpoint in the autism community. So there's the autism community and the autistic community. And the autistic community is people who are autistic, who have this diagnosis. The autism community is those people plus their relatives, mothers, carers, whatever. And you find that very many people who are autistic want to use identity first language. They want to say, I am autistic. It is who I am. I can't take it away. It's not something I have. It's not something that burdens me. This is who I am. And if you could just recognize me for who I am, it would make the world a lot easier for me, rather than thinking that I have this thing that one day I might not have. But you find a lot of parents of children who are autistic or who have autism, they want to identify their children with person first language. So they are a person with autism, because they don't want their child defined by the autism. They don't want society to see the autism first. They want society to see their child. But that's kind of, to me, based on an underlying assumption that there's something wrong with being autistic. Okay. It's like they don't want their child to be identified as autistic because there's something wrong with it. They wouldn't mind their child being identified as being from Cork or Dublin or Mayo, because there's nothing wrong with that. But when it's autism, there's a societal stigma. And so they don't want that. And I completely get it. And I know that there are parents, probably even parents listening to this, that think, yeah, well, my son is not yet speaking and he doesn't have the ability to dress himself, and I don't know what's wrong. I don't know when he's sick, what's wrong with him. And it's really difficult and it's a huge disability. And you are there and you're talking to the 2 Marys, and you probably drove there in your own car and you have your own job, and you don't represent autism for me, and it is a disability. And I understand that and I hear it. Autism does look different. It's a spectrum disorder, but that's not to say that I don't have, like support needs as well. I do very much have support needs, but I am able to communicate. But I think that just because my experience is different to somebody else's doesn't mean that it's not valid. So sorry, that's a really long-winded answer. I identify as being autistic rather than with autism. But I think if anyone's having the conversation and they make that mistake or they say the wrong thing, I think we live in a world that's just like so trigger happy about jumping on people who say the wrong thing. But if you're talking about autism, that's already better than not talking about it. So I don't really care what people say.
When you talk about needing support, because you're highly articulate, talented, successful. And I would say a lot of parents of autistic children would be saying to themselves, I wish that for my child who's autistic. But as you mentioned, it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
Some might experience that, a lot more might not. But because you sound so independent and strong, but you did say there that you do need support.
Yeah.
In what way?
So it varies. That's the thing. So sometimes, so there's a thing called energy accounting. So
there's what?
Energy accounting.
Energy accounting.
If you imagine that your energy levels are a bank account, and every day you wake up and there's €100 in the bank account. For a non-autistic person, maybe going to the coffee shop and ordering a coffee and having small chit chat with the barista takes 10 of their energy credits. And then they go and they do 8 hours of work on a computer, and that takes 12 of their energy credits. And then they meet their friend for lunch, and that gives them credit. And it's all this balancing act. Being autistic means that different things, or the same things, take different credits on different days. So for me, when, like, for example, I've been on the Late Late Show a number of times, and the first 3 times I was on, I didn't know that I was autistic, but the same thing happens every time afterwards. I can't speak the next day. Like I literally cannot speak. I have no word. My words are gone.
And why is that?
It's exhaustion. I'm just so far in the red.
€100 gone.
Yeah, I'm just so much in the overdraft that I don't have. And that's because it's a late night. It's quite a stressful situation. There's a lot of talking. There's other people around. Focus. It's loud. There's focus. I don't, and I need a lot of sleep. Like, my sleep is really important for me to be able to function. So on days, it's about me managing my life. So I know, okay, I'm talking to the 2 Marys today. I know, and my friend wants to come over and meet us for a takeaway this week. And I said, don't come on Wednesday, because I won't have very many words left, because I'll be talking, I'll be meeting new people, and I won't have the energy to talk to you over a takeaway that evening. And then, you know, with the kids, like,
will you have the energy though for the kids, or is it just for certain situations?
Well, you summon the energy for the kids, right? But the kids is more draining, because it's not so much about talking, it's the worry and the planning. Have you ever been driving your car and listening to the radio, and you're driving somewhere you don't know, and you have to turn down the radio to focus on where you're going?
Yes, to concentrate. Yes,
so
definitely.
Basically,
Allenwood, go ahead.
Autism is like that, except all the time, and you can't turn down the radio. So if the kids are crying and someone is talking to me, my brain, an autistic brain, doesn't know which of those sounds is more important. And so I can't filter it out. So I had to say, when I was in labour, if there's something beeping in the room and a midwife or doctor is talking to me, my brain doesn't know which sound to listen to, so I can't answer you. So if you need my consent about something, either we need to turn off the machines, or you need to ask me now before we get into the situation about what my wishes are, because I can't focus.
Stefanie, you've got wonderful awareness. It's amazing.
When I was diagnosed with autism and I came out and told people, they were like, hang on, I thought we all knew you were autistic. How did you not know you were autistic? We all knew.
Other people knew?
Yeah. Like, a lot of people message me who are like SNAs, or they work in that field, and they're like, oh, I thought you knew and we just didn't talk about it. One time, this girl, she went too hard on my blue crayon, and I used to keep all my crayons in a line. And if the blue one was shorter than all the rest of them, then the whole thing was ruined. They all had to be the same length. And so I didn't want to share. And people thought, oh, she's an only child, or oh, she's really selfish. But that's not what it was at all. It was just, this is the control, and you're going to go too hard in my colours, so I'm going to hide them and I'm not going to share. And, you know, like, I really didn't want to go to the junior cert disco, or my leaving cert graduation, or Irish college. And my mum strongly encouraged / forced me to go to these things, because she was afraid that I'd grow up and say, I have no, you know, like, childhood memories that everyone else has, because you didn't let me go, or you didn't want me to go. You get asked these questions when you're in media. You'll know yourselves, like, where do you want to travel to, and who would you invite to a meal, dead or alive, all this. And I just say, like, I don't want to travel to anywhere. I don't want to have dinner with anyone I don't know. Like, and I'm really lucky that my husband, he was actually married before he met me, and his wife sadly passed away. But they travelled the world together. They've been to North Korea.
He's done all that.
He's done it all.
It's out of his system.
It's out of the system, and I feel very, very grateful that I know I never have to go there.
And had he children before?
No, he didn't.
No. So this is a very different life for him too.
Yes, yeah.
So are you happy in your unit, you, your husband, and your 2 little children? Because you have your daughter, and now how old is your new son?
He's 5 weeks now.
Billy Zephyr.
Billy Zephyr, yeah.
How did you choose that name?
Zephyr is the Greek god of the west wind, and Aurora is named after like Aurora Borealis. I thought that they were nicely matched, and I'm big into Greek mythology. But then Noel's dad was William, and he has 19 nephews and nieces, and none of them are called William. And this is definitely the last child in that family. So we decided we'd take the last opportunity to call him after Noel's dad.
Changing Times, the Allenwood Conversations.
Proudly supported by Kildare County Council.
Now on Broadway, An Enemy of the People is a New York Times critic's pick. Jeremy Strong is one of the great actors of his generation, hails the Chicago Tribune. In a performance the Wall Street Journal praises as powerfully affecting and bitterly funny. Michael Imperioli sets off sparks, cheers the Hollywood Reporter. Victoria Pedretti is luminous, raves variety. From director Sam Gold and playwright Amy Herzog, An Enemy of the People is urgent, electrifying, and haunting, declares USA Today. An Enemy of the People, on Broadway through June 16th only.
Tired of ads barging into your favorite news podcasts? Good news. Ad-free listening is available on Amazon Music for all the music plus top podcasts included with your Prime membership. Stay up to date on everything newsworthy by downloading the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/news ad free. That's amazon.com/news ad free to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Well, it's lovely that you have those two little babas and as your family, but you did have a journey of miscarriage and disappointment.
We had multiple miscarriages
really?
during that COVID. So we had that miscarriage on Halloween night. And then I just became obsessed with getting pregnant again. And I know that very many people who suffer miscarriage, it takes them a long time to be able to try again, to find that fortitude. And for me, it was like, okay, I just need to get pregnant again because I need this to not be the story that I'm living in. And we got pregnant again, and I had another miscarriage around Christmas.
How many weeks along were you then?
The 16 weeks was the longest one we had. Okay. So that one, I think they can sometimes call it a chemical pregnancy, you know, like I had a positive pregnancy test. And then we had another one in March we had a few scans of that. I think it was 8 or 9 weeks, but I don't know when the heartbeat had stopped, you know. So that one we had to have the same as the first, you know, a D&C. So they took what they call the products of conception to genetically test them to see why this recurrent miscarriage was happening. And then we had another one on our honeymoon. And then...
When was that?
That was in July 20.
So it's less than a year.
Yes.
Less than a year, you're talking about 4 miscarriages. Oh,
yeah.
God.
But I think it's like I'm hyper fertile. So then I was like, okay, we're going to do IVF. And the doctors were like, you don't need to do IVF, you know, like you're getting pregnant. And I was like, yeah, but that's what just people do. So I feel like I have to do something. Like I can't just sit here and wait for the next month and the next month and the next month. And my endocrinologist had told me that there's a thing you can do called PGTA, which is you do the IVF, sperm, egg, make an embryo, send the embryo to a lab test the embryo and see, okay, there's no chromosomal issues here. So we decided we would do that. And then the first time around, we didn't get any embryos because it's just this awful lottery of like, on day one, they ring you and they say, okay, so 8 of them have made it to day 1. And then they ring you and like, I could see the call coming up every day and I just felt so sick. And they'd say, okay, 3 of them have made it to day 2. Like, okay, we're down to 3. 2 of them have made it to day 3, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually it was like, I'm sorry, none of them have made it to day 5. So we did it again. And that time, one of them made it. But when they were testing it, it got destroyed, which is a risk that you take with the, you know, like, so that we found out Christmas week and I was like, oh, you know what? I give up. I can't. No, 2021. I hate this year. This has been the worst year. Let's just put it behind us.
Well,
the COVID year.
Everything, yeah.
We were going to Abu Dhabi for holidays and I was like, I'm not dealing with this until we get back. And we booked in a call for the 6th of January to meet with the IVF team to see like why was this happening and what were the next steps. And we were considering egg donation. And then we came back from Abu Dhabi and I was working in London. And I was, you know, I'd been pregnant a few times and every time I'm pregnant, I get this headache. It's a very specific headache. And I woke up and I was in this hotel in King's Cross and I was like, I have the headache. What is this? And it was the day that we were doing the call with the clinic. And so we were on the call with the clinic. Noel was in Dublin, I was in London, and the clinic was in Dublin, and we were all on this Skype. And I was like, I had gotten a test from Boots and it was positive. And so he was like, okay, so what's the next plan? And I was like, well, I'm actually pregnant. He was like, well, you couldn't be pregnant because we didn't implant anything. And I was like, I understand the science, doctor, but I am pregnant. And he was like, okay, great. Well, come in and we'll, track your HCG and hope that this one kind of lasts. I was totally resigned to the fact that we were going to have another miscarriage, that I didn't even really engage with the pregnancy. When I imagined having children, and I don't know if other people are like this, I imagined having like a 7-year-old, like a child that I could sit and watch TV with and reason with and go to the shops with. And then you're given this baby, and Rory had colic, and it was horrific. And I was just so shocked at how difficult it was. She was allergic to the milk we were feeding her. I was breastfeeding her as well, and there was lactose in my milk. And because now that I have Billy's F, he's such an easy baby compared to her, because he's not allergic to milk. He just sleeps and he feeds, and he's, quite chill.
But besides being a mummy, you're also, we've already mentioned, and you've mentioned, the writing career, the career in drama, the career in writing. Mm-hmm. Everywhere you turn, you've been successful. Really successful columnist, really successful dramatist, one woman show. When you look back at that, your being autistic doesn't seem to have stopped you in any one way.
But I think when you introduce anyone in these situations, you're just introducing them by their successes, right? By their CVs. Like it's not that everywhere I've turned, I've been successful. But nobody's going to have me on the Late Late Show to talk about a TV show I wrote that wasn't picked up. Do you know? It's like, it's not. And yes, I am really successful in my career, that I control myself and I choose what projects I do.
I'm interested in the second book that you wrote, which was about learning to say no.
So my second book was called Can I Say No? And I chose that title because it's kind of a question of ability, but also permission. Like, am I allowed to say no? But also, am I able to say no?
And how are you with the yes and the no now?
Great.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I don't do much that I don't want to do. But I think that's not really a reflection on my strength as a woman. It's more that like you get to a certain place in like financial stability in your career, a certain age where you're like, I just couldn't be arsed. Like I was really into theatre and I love the theatre industry, and I kind of left it because so much of it is informal networking after shows late at night in bars. And I developed a really unhealthy relationship with alcohol because I needed to numb the sharp edges of the world to do that.
Yeah. When did that happen in your life? When did that kick in?
So on the 23rd of January this year, I was 10 years sober.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
And was it wine, beer, whiskey, vodka, what?
Well, I mean, in college, it was like whatever was
cheap.
Whatever was cheap.
was cheapest.
And then it became like whatever worked fastest. It was kind of like wine, usually. And I would try to orchestrate it so that, we were like post-Celtic Tiger recession babies. And so there was a lot of pre-drinking in houses, which I know is happening again now. And I would try to get so drunk at the house that I wouldn't have to go out, that people would be like, nah, you need to stay here, or you'll pass out on a couch or something, so that I didn't have to go to the nightclub.
And how did you tackle it, Stefanie?
I just stopped. I went to some support groups.
Did your mum intervene?
No. And I wasn't. That's the thing, and Irish people have such a strange relationship with alcohol. A lot of people wouldn't have seen what I was doing as problematic because it wasn't as bad as Jimmy down the road who drinks 15 pints a night, And I didn't drink every week, and I didn't drink every day, and I never drank on my own. It was always social. And people don't see an issue with that, because if they see an issue with that, they have to look at their own drinking, and a lot of Irish people don't want to do that. That's why I don't tend to talk about what I drank or how much I drank, because people are always looking for, okay, I'm not that bad, or I can excuse my drinking because I didn't do this. Whereas actually for me, it's less about how much you drank or the effects of your drinking, and more about the reason you're drinking, why you're drinking.
Why did you need it?
Yeah. And the fact that you need it.
I love the fact that you are an ambassador for the National Maternity Hospital.
Yeah.
What's the kind of the role that you and the reason that you have taken that? Because that's putting yourself out there, Stefanie.
Sure, yeah. Just the National Maternity Hospital have been so amazing to me. Like from 2020, like the first miscarriage, the second, the third, the recurrent miscarriages, everyone, like I'm in and out of there all the time for the mental health team. And then the ambassador role was mainly about raising money for their intensive care unit to help babies arrive, survive and thrive. And I hadn't actually when I became an ambassador, I hadn't had any real interactions with the neonatal unit. And then Billy's F was born on the 19th of January and we were back in the room with him. And I was like, oh, he's making really cute sounds. I'm going to take a video. And I took a video of these really cute sounds. And the pediatrician came in and was like, how long has he been making that sound for? And I was like an hour, and they were like, he can't breathe, like this is really serious. So they took him, and then he was in the neonatal, like he was in intensive care for 2 nights away from me, and they were just incredible. It's not a place that anyone ever wants to go. It's really scary. Your own baby, but also you're seeing all these other sick kids and parents who are coming in and out from their houses however far away to feed their babies or stay with them. And just the care and the attention that they give to the parents is just incredible. And so it's a great honor to be an ambassador, I guess, for them. And then, there's part of me that feels, I know that there are people who follow me and followed my journey of fertility, which I wasn't sharing live at the time, but shared after the fact. And there are people listening who don't get that ending, and that's really, really difficult. And it was something that I grappled with a lot, but I just didn't have it in me to share it publicly, that's what I was going through, because I know the wall of love, but also the wall of, relatable stories that are coming in. I just didn't have it in me to deal with everybody else as well as myself. So I didn't share it at the time.
That's a kind of a lesson you learned in a way. What do you think would be the most valuable lesson that life has taught you so far?
The most valuable lesson that life has taught me. I don't know, what are your answers to that?
I don't know either.
No. And I suppose it's different at different stages in life.
Absolutely, yeah.
At the moment, I suppose for me, it would be the fact that there's more time lived than there is to live for me. And it's important to make the most of
just enjoy
every moment. Yeah. When you get to a certain age. But then you're young, you're embarking on motherhood.
That's actually something that we talk about a lot. My husband was 29 and his wife was 29 when she died. And so that's something that is really, my daughter is her middle name is named after Kathy, after Noel's late wife. And she's very much alive in our thoughts all the time. And that idea of like carpe diem and like it's not guaranteed is actually, it's not something that's, I think, just for later in life for people who've experienced death at a young age.
Any sense of spirituality or religion in that?
My grand-aunt died recently, just before Christmas, and I saw how much comfort she got out of her deep belief that she was going to God. Like that everything she'd done in her life was driving her to this place and this is where she was going. And I just wanted that so much. I want that so much to be like, okay, I'm going to Jesus. This is it. There is another life. I've been good. I've tried my best. I know where I'm going. But I just can't. I don't know. I want to have something like that. I want to have a deep spiritual belief about what's going to happen. But I think about it all the time.
You think about it all the time?
Yeah, I think about it all the time. Like where are we going? And where and how much consciousness will I have there? And also when I'm on my deathbed, what will comfort me? Like it comforted her to be like, it's okay. It's in God's hands.
But do you have any sense that you can accept and believe in an afterlife?
No. I believe in electricity. I just believe that like we're just a lot of neural pathways and that when we're gone, we're gone. But I'd love to believe that a man with a beard is going to meet me at the gate and be like, that way, like up or down.
And he's going to say to you, I'm autistic too. Welcome to your tribe.
Yeah.
Stefanie, this is a question that we ask everybody. And it's we'd love to have your answer to it as well. If there was one thing that you could change in the world, either for yourself or for us in the world, for people around you, what do you think you would change?
I think one thing that might tick all the boxes is, but then I don't know, like if I was actually given this skill, what I would choose. But for the purpose of this interview, I think if you gave everybody the opportunity, like through AI or some way, to get an experience what somebody else is going through, like you get to see into somebody's private life just for a moment, whether it's someone you're engaging with on Twitter or someone who's run a red light in front of you, that you get to see that person's whole story and not see them for just one moment of their life. I think it would lead to so much more grace and ease in the world, and would probably solve an awful lot of our problems, because I think we sometimes forget that there's a whole human behind this person that we're engaging with for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You sound like you're chasing a world more compassionate.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want people to be more compassionate.
But I don't think
Not so
to
judgmental.
say that to make people more compassionate, what does that look like? You know, I think
they'd have to stand in the shoes.
That's it.
Yeah.
I can remember growing
They'd have
up,
to
my
stand in the
mother
shoes.
always said to us, you know, if you were contemplating a reaction
Yeah.
to something that somebody had done to you, was put yourself in their shoes and look at it from where they are and then make your decision.
But that takes some sort of
That's so
intestinal fortitude. You know, you have to have a really strong stomach to do that.
It's a nice aspiration though.
Yeah, but that's all it is really, isn't it? Like
Maybe.
It's a change.
it's chaotic out there at the moment.
Correct.
With
And it's
how
always
it's all
been.
gone. Has it always been?
Oh, it's always been. I mean, I was born into the myriad. Well, I'm a little bit older than Mary, but I was born into the immediate aftermath of the Second World War. Believe me, those 50 years before I was born were pure chaos. 70 million people died in Europe. We forget that. We just forget it because we weren't in it.
And did people just get on with their lives? Like,
And
people
then they just moved on.
But when it was happening, like people were still having kids, they were still getting married.
They were having ration books, and they were, you know, trying to make ends meet. And also the other thing that's really interesting, I think, about that time is that people really rarely spoke about it. It was just so
but it was just another war.
awful.
Because if you look at the history of the world, I mean, that's
Traumatic.
war. It's more about war than it's ever been about peace. Yeah, I think a paradigm of compassion would not be a bad way to go. Would not be a bad way to go. If we ever
standing in
got
someone
there.
else's shoes.
Yeah. If we were, but we're. I don't think we're there. And between that and climate change, I just wonder will care for the earth and compassion for the self and for the other converge sometime before the whole thing implodes?
I don't think so. I think people are too, too wound up in their own lives, and our lives have become so much about ourselves and self-reflection.
I think you're right.
And, you know
the way people say, oh, I'm very grateful. Do you feel kind of gratitude for the life that you have now? You know, you've had difficulties, you've had challenges. And, you know, is that your feeling when you look at your own life?
It's not my natural feeling, but it's something that I really work on a daily basis to try and practice, because for me, happiness just and gratitude sometimes feels like it's always on the horizon of something else. Like, you know, there are some people who are just naturally grateful and they naturally are warm. I'm kind of like neutral to negative on most things. And so I have to work at being grateful, but I have so much to be grateful for. It's just, I have to take time to write a list of what those things are.
Well, we are so
very
grateful.
Absolutely.
To listen to you. It's been just great.
You're such a great thinker and feeler, and it's just been a privilege to
open your life up to two people that you don't know well, and to do that, I think it's just a remarkable capacity, a remarkable ability. But then to share it, and we've enjoyed listening to you, learnt so much. I don't know very much about autism. I've learnt over the years more about it, but knowing what a spectrum it is, to meet somebody who is on that spectrum and so articulate about it and so willing to share that knowledge. It's been terrific, absolutely terrific. Thanks a million.
Thank you, Stefanie, for sharing with us. And you know, it's just been fascinating to get that insight into your life, and the fact that you live it so fully, and that you that you are so conscious of other people and reaching out to people, which you do.
Thank you so much.
I've been a reader of Stefanie for quite a while, but to meet her and to listen and to see the exuberance in the person that she is, because she's chatty and exuberant and fun, but also to see in back of that, that there's been a real struggle there and that she's willing to share that struggle, that her own struggle, in order to be able to bring other people to some kind of adaptation to their own lives.
Yeah, I agree. I think her resilience is remarkable. Her coping skills struck me, you know, the way that she navigated becoming a mother and finding out things about herself as she went along. But I do feel her strength and her inner resolve to cope with this is something that she should be very, very proud of.
She should be, because it's her willingness to learn about herself, to be open to learning about herself. That struck me as something unique in many ways, not a thing that you meet very often. Someone who's prepared to invest that amount of learning about themselves.
And it's obvious talking to her that it's not easy. It's not an easy road that she's on.
But I hope a lot of people will have been helped by her. I'm sure they will.
So that's it for this episode of Changing Times, the Allenwood Conversations. Thank you, as always, to our researcher, Anne-Marie Staunton.
And, of course, to our producer, Enda Grace.
And to you, our loyal listeners.
Don't forget to follow Changing Times wherever you get your podcasts.
So from Allenwood, here in County Kildare, Slonagwiff. Changing Times, the Allenwood Conversations.
Proudly supported by Kildare County Council.
Tired of ads interfering with your favorite sports podcasts? Good news. Ad-free listening is available on Amazon Music for all the music plus top podcasts included with your Prime membership. Stay ahead of the game by downloading the Amazon Music app for free, or go to amazon.com/sports ad free. That's amazon.com/sports ad free to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Need new glasses or want a fresh new style? Warby Parker has you covered. Glasses start at just $95, including anti-reflective, scratch-resistant prescription lenses that block 100% of UV rays. Every frame's designed in-house with a huge selection of styles for every face shape. And with Warby Parker's free home try-on program, you can order 5 pairs to try at home for free. Shipping is free both ways, too. Go to warbyparker.com/covered to try 5 pairs of frames at home for free. warbyparker.com/covered.
Hey, it's Paige DeSorbo from Giggly Squad. High quality fashion without the price tag. Say hello to Quince. I'm snagging high-end essentials like cozy cashmere sweaters, sleek leather jackets, fine jewelry, and so much more. With Quince being 50 to 80% less than similar brands. And they partner with factories that prioritize safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing. I love that. Luxury quality within reach. Go to quince.com/style to get free shipping and 365-day returns on your next order. Quince.com/style.